Welcome to the Belly Button Window channel and episode 46 part 1 of the Jimi Hendrix story, like you've never heard it before. In this episode, we will begin the deep dive into September of 1970, including the final Scandinavian gigs and Jimi's last official performance at the Isle of Fehmarn. Please remember to check the channel's community tab and video information page, where you will find links to related videos, performances, and stunning photographs from the period. Tuesday, the 1st of September, Hendrix and the Experience perform at the STORA SCENEN, LIESBERG, Gothenburg, Sweden. Concert setlist: Spanish Castle Magic, Killing Floor, Getting My Heart Back Together Again, Message to Love, Hey Baby, In From the Storm, Hey Joe, Foxy Lady, Red House, Room Full of Mirrors, Straight Ahead, Purple Haze and Voodoo Child, Slight Return. According to Hendrix author Charles R. Cross. Backstage, Jimi ran into Eva Sundquist, who had always been his favorite girlfriend in Sweden. This meeting was not so fond. Since his last visit, Eva had given birth to James Daniel Sundquist, Jimi's child. She had written Jimi several times about the baby, but he had not responded. Eva had left the baby home, but asked Jimi if he wanted to come meet his son. The question temporarily stunned him. Perhaps he was considering the paternity suit he was already fighting with Diana Carpenter. The scene backstage was a madhouse, with journalists, groupies and fans all tugging on Jimi's sleeve, and he was pulled away from Eva without ever giving her an answer. Jimi never met James Daniel Sundquist, his only known son. After the set at Gothenburg, Billy Cox's drink is spiked with acid at an after-concert party, sending him on a bad trip, resonating long after his anxiety and paranoia. Wednesday, the 2nd of September, Jimi arrives in AARHUS, Denmark, where he checks into the Atlantic Hotel. By this time, Hendrix is in bad shape, suffering from a cold and 3 days of sleep deprivation. Gulping sleeping pills in the afternoon only worsens his condition before he takes to the stage at AARHUS's Valby Riskhoff Hallen. He stops playing, after just a few songs, before the concert is aborted and refunds are given. Songs performed: Freedom, Message to Love, Hey Baby and drum solo. Returning to his hotel with girlfriend Kirsten Nefer, he, perhaps unwisely, consents to being interviewed by Morgen POSTEN journalist Anne Bjorndal. When the reporter departs, Jimi asks Kirsten to marry him. Anne Bjorndal, in her article titled Jimi Hendrix, I Sacrifice Some of My Soul, for Morgen POSTEN wrote, I am not sure I will live to be 28 years old, says the 25-years-old rock idol Jimi Hendrix in an interview with Morgen POSTEN. The moment I feel I've got nothing more musically, I will not be around on this planet anymore. Unfortunately, the concert in AARHUS with the one who is possibly the greatest guitarist of rock music did not turn out as we had expected. Jimi Hendrix was exhausted physically and mentally due to a far too tight touring schedule. This caused him to give up, having struggled his way through 2 songs as he was unable to complete the concert. It was a shame, for both him and us, because we know he can do it, but the day before yesterday it did not work out. Still, it must be said that the 2 tunes he did play, Freedom and Message to Love, from the album Band of Gypsys, really brought us onto the enormous sound trip that characterized his music. The music was there, warm and vibrant, and everything else ceased to exist. Welcome to the Electric Circus, Jimi Hendrix opened by saying, but it was to be short-lived. Still, you got time to enjoy both Jimi's eminent guitar playing, Billy Cox's bass playing, as well as Mitch Mitchell's powerful percussion. However, Jimi Hendrix promised after the concert had been broken off to return within a month to give a free concert in order to enable everyone to experience his wonderful playing, which at its best lifts us up into a higher sphere. It was clear that Jimi Hendrix was tired. Already long before the concert, he talked about cancelling because it simply was not fair to the audience. Even so, he was very talkative before the concert. As a matter of fact, he talks without interruption and gesticulates with his hands. Upon seeing the harbour of AARHUS, he exclaimed, Oh, a harbour. This is the drag about being on tour constantly. We never get a chance to see the places we play, but it is all part of the machinery. I prefer to play in Europe because here people listen and understand what it is all about, whereas they freak out in the States. I do not like playing at night as I cannot see the audience. This is the most beautiful part of big open-air festivals. It is light and you can see the faces of the audience. Jimi Hendrix talks a lot about supernatural phenomenons. All the time he returns to Jesus and Genghis Khan. In reality, Jesus started off a lot of wars, not himself, but the people who supported his cause. That is why Christianity is a something of the past. Religion is the thing, and it has to be found within yourself. You have to live with peace of mind. Most human beings have been born as human beings made for love and peace. It is only their obligations in our society that make them dress grey and black. Why is it that I keep hearing Mick Jagger's name? Jimi Hendrix asks. We are into different things, but I suppose thought-wise we have got certain things in common. I would like to get involved in starting off a record company with the Rolling Stones, which they have talked about. Music is my life, you have to be honest. It is about life and feelings, and you must take your time for it like in any other occupation. In my case, I sacrifice a part of my soul every time I play. There are also certain moments when I feel I have got to write, especially before I go off to sleep when all thoughts run through my brain. My guitar is my medium, and I want everybody to get into it. I want to turn the world on. Music and sound waves are cosmic when they vibrate from one side to the other. I'm not sure I will live to be 28 years old. He's 25 years old now. I mean, the moment I feel I have got nothing more to give musically, I will not be around on this planet anymore, unless I have a wife and children, otherwise I have got nothing to live for. While he continues to talk about mystical things, he says among other things that he does not like LSD, because it is naked. I need oxygen, he says, and takes a deep breath. About his close friend, the leader of the group Love, Arthur Lee, Jimi Hendrix says, I am very fond of him. We are like brothers. We could start a new human race with our music. I would very much like to do more things with him. We have just recorded an album together. We think and feel the same way, so it would be wonderful if we could work out something together. We are a kind of spiritual gypsies traveling around getting our message out through our music. I love reading fairy tales, H.C. Andersen and Winnie the Pooh. Fairy tales are full of fantasy, and like music they appeal to your sense of imagination. I never play a song the same way twice. I cannot play something that I do not feel for, and that I can put my soul into. Concerning his plans for the future, Jimi Hendrix says he intends to keep this band at least till the tour is over. With this lineup, they have recorded about 150 tracks, 15 out of which they will be able to use on their next album. As for the bootleg album, which has supposedly been recorded after the festival at Woodstock, Jimmy says he does not care. People have many weird ideas about me, he continues. The ones that label me do not know me, or only one part of me. Like I said before, I hate labels, and the one with WITCHDOCTOR on it does not stick. Immediately prior to the concert, Jimi Hendrix said, I am the bus driver and you are my passengers. As a matter of fact, this remark summarizes all of his music. He's the captain of the spaceship, and he wants to take us, the listeners, along his space trip, out to where the sound waves are allowed to tickle you. On stage, he radiates electric energy. In private, he is quiet and reflective, like a wolf in sheep's clothing. Such is the nature of Jimi Hendrix. While the following piece titled, Fell Like a Wet Rag, appeared in the publication DEMOKRATEN. I am so tired and have not slept for 3 days, said the world's best guitarist Jimi Hendrix before his concert in Hallen yesterday night. That is why he should have cancelled his performance, which only lasted 8 minutes. 4,000 people who had paid more than 150,000 crowns in entrance can go and get their money back today. We got the heavy, groovy blues rock from the group in Freedom, rock and roll in Message of Love. But it all only lasted for 8 minutes. Then the curtain fell for the guitar phenomenon Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix completely freaked out in Hallen. It went like this. After the last lovely vibrations from the support group, Blue Sun had closed around 8:15 p.m., and a waiting and expectant atmosphere spread in the Hallen. Now the man everyone was waiting for, and whom you had paid from 35 to 55 crowns to see, should show up. But the minutes passed, and while everyone stared despairingly at the stage entrance, the mood was raised. There was stamping in the floor, whistling and clapping. Meanwhile, 50 press people and the organizers stood together and waited for the great master. Finally, at 9:05 p.m., the bass player Billy Cox came first, afterwards the drummer John Mitchell, and at last Jimi Hendrix, who under ear-splitting applause entered the stage in his spangled clothing, black shoes, chalk-white sailor trousers, blue lilac-colored silk scarf tied around the upper arm, on the outside of a tight orange-red Chinese shirt with blue-yellow spots. "Are you feeling all right?" asked the wild man with the rebellious curls, held by a blue headband. "Yeah," was the answer. "Then welcome to the electric circus." But there was no electric circus. After Jimi and his two companions had built up a stimulating compact wall of sound with tearing elegy from Hendrix's guitar, which he used in his widely famous machine gun style, it all fell down like a wet rag. Precisely 8 minutes passed before Jimi Hendrix dropped his guitar plectrum. We only got a sporadic understanding of the capacity of the three top musicians before it happened. Hendrix became strange and stood and strummed on the 12-stringed with the fingers completely lacking inspiration, even though it was not support he needed from the 3,000 young people in the hall. Mitch Mitchell tried to save the rest with a great drum solo while Jimi took a smoke, hidden behind the amplifiers. But the concert was over. You could see it on Mitchell, who looked anxiously after Hendrix and Cox, who both stood and talked behind the stage. The last drum beat died and it was announced over the speakers that Hendrix would take a 5-minute break. The 5 minutes became 10 and 15, half an hour passed before the releasing message came. Jimi Hendrix feels very sick and cannot play anymore tonight. Screaming and obscure yelling. He promises though soon to return and give a free concert here in AARHUS. Everyone can get their tickets refunded tomorrow. It was the complete frustration, nemesis for the many Hendrix fans, that could not see how he staggered between all the empty beer bottles in the adjoining room. Before Hendrix went on stage, the inner circle amongst the organizers were already saying that he had freaked out, and this misgiving was now confirmed. Hendrix had a blackout. Whether he was drunk or high, no one could confirm in the panic that started, and it was not possible to get any sense from him. But he had let down his fans, and this can have some bad consequences. Not many Hendrix records will be sold in the near future at least. One really hopes that Jimi Hendrix shows himself to be a man, and that he will keep his word, and returns to AARHUS and give a free concert. He owes the audience that, and not forgetting AARHUS Studenter Jazz. Thursday the 3rd of September, now in Copenhagen. Jimi is invited to dinner at Kirsten Neffer's house, and his mood picks up after enjoying some of Kirsten's mother's home-cooked soup. Their engagement is announced in the Danish press, and that night's show at Copenhagen's KB HALLEN is a rare corker. Nonetheless, Jimi is still behaving erratically. Concert setlist, Stone Free, Foxy Lady, Message to Love, Hey Baby, All Along the Watchtower, Machine Gun, Spanish Castle Magic, Sing a Simple Song, Drum Solo, Easy Rider, Freedom, Red House, In From the Storm, Purple Haze / Voodoo Child, Slight Return, The Sunshine of Your Love, Outside Woman Blues, Calling All Devil's Children, Hey, Joe and Fire. The following Copenhagen review, titled Guitar King in Top Form, was published in the publication AKTUELT. The autumn pop season started in the best way at KB HALLEN last night, where Jimi Hendrix, the undefeated master of the electric guitar, gave a concert. The hall was full, and 4,000 wild fans put the skids under the famous man. It seemed like the many pop fans had saved up all summer. You'd have to look a long time for similar atmosphere. There was applause for the sound technician and the doormen, besides, of course, the musicians and two men who rolled off with a piano. A concert with Hendrix is one big prayer meeting, where the single musical point does not matter. It is the entirety, the power, the energy, the humor, which is the determining part. And Jimi was in good shape. He talked, laughed, and played incomprehensibly on his big shining guitar. We got All Along the Watchtower, Machine Gun, and a lots of others, known and unknown. The amplifiers blasted and the applause was never ending. The Danish-American group Blue Sun entertained for the first part, with theatrical attitudes, gimmicks, and avant-garde jazz. We could have done without them. While the following article titled, Tired Hendrix Wants a Break, appeared in the EKSTRA BLADET. Why do I work so much? Yes, I wish I knew. But now I have to take it easy. This was what Jimi Hendrix told EKSTRA BLADET after his concert in KB HALLEN in Copenhagen. At the same time, he revealed that he did not know that he was the headliner this week at the Fehmarn festival. If Hendrix disappointed his audience Wednesday evening in AARHUS, he played for almost 100 minutes in Copenhagen. But Jimi is probably a kid for fun. Even though everybody started fidgeting with impatience around 8:15 p.m., when he was supposed to follow the group Blue Sun, he played on in his dressing room together with his bass player Billy Cox and with his girlfriends as an adoring audience. At the same time, the mood in the hall was raising. And Anders Steffensen from Scandinavian booking agency got wrinkles on his forehead, and Hendrix's many people ran back and forth. Would he play or not? That was what you asked yourself after 30 minutes. But Hendrix would, even though he was tired, exhausted, and lacked sleep. This was the official explanation. After the show, he was not more tired though, Then he and the ladies were planning a trip to Tivoli. But then Hendrix entered, greeted by a giant wave of applause from the audience. He answered back by showing the V sign and let us know that something was happening now, here and now. And with far-reaching, beautiful visual sound waves, he gave back what he had and more than that. Far into the body, one felt how Hendrix with his guitar and his amplifiers could make love to a hall full of people. Hendrix and the audience never reached the brimming over climax. The communication with the pushing bass player Billy Cox missed a couple of times, and Mitch Mitchell was often lost. But everything flowed quiet and warm up and down, without any of the parts reaching climax. And when Hendrix had played the extra songs, Hey Joe, and Let Me Stand Next to Your Fire, everything went quiet and calm. There was given, and there was taken so much that everyone felt comfortable. And in the POLITIKEN, in a piece titled Warrior of Love, Unsurpassed Hendrix in Copenhagen, another reviewer wrote, "Concert of the Year. This label is very used, but this time it is justified. Jimi Hendrix at KB Hallen last night surpassed anything we have heard until now. A filled hall made love to him, sat with open mouths and vibrating nerves and heard him. Billy Cox and Mitch Mitchell, who went to London yesterday and returned on a chartered plane to say hello to his newborn daughter. Jimmy was ill and tired in AARHUS, but in Copenhagen he was so high that it was true energy, true adrenaline, which ran through his fingers, through the guitar and into all of us. That any human can contain this much is so incredible that it can only be true." He gave the peace sign when he entered, and the feelings he and his group expressed through their music was true love, a love that contains all the aspects of love, from sorrow to rebirth. As a warrior of love, he stood dressed in many colors and was the best guitarist rock and roll music can offer. What Hendrix, Cox and Mitchell gave those who were in KB Hallen, no one can take from them. Friday the 4th of September. Jimmy flies from Copenhagen to Berlin via Hamburg, where he participates in a behind-the-scenes interview with Chris Bromberg for the British Forces Broadcasting Service, before performing at the Super Concert 70 Deutschlandhalle Berlin. Concert set list: Straight Ahead, Spanish Castle Magic, The Sunshine of Your Love, Hey Baby, Message to Love, Machine Gun, The Breeze and I, Purple Haze, Red House, Foxy Lady, Easy Rider, Hey Joe, Power of Soul and Loverman. Concert goer and self-confessed army brat, Richard Black, tells the story. The super concert was scheduled for the Waldbühne, but the weather forecast moved the show indoors to the historic Deutschlandhalle. Bands slated to perform according to the original poster were Cold Blood, Cat Mother, Procol Harum, 10 Years After, and Jimi Hendrix. Cat Mother and Cold Blood for some reason could not make it. Two Berlin local rock bands, Birth Control and Murphy Blend, along with California boogie blues rockers Canned Heat, were added to the bill. Amazing that Canned Heat performed a day after the death of co-founder singer, songwriter, guitarist, blues harpist Alan Blind Owl Wilson. I met Sam, and off we were to the West End neighborhood location of the Deutschlandhalle. He had our tickets and one backstage pass. The weather was not bad at all. The show started at 6 p.m. I think we arrived a little after that. I noticed a lot of police and people were trying to sneak in by climbing the entrance overhang of the building to get to the windows. It was a wild scene. Our seats were on the main floor not too far from the stage, so I had a great view. The crowd was large, at least 8,000 to 10,000 fans. Some reports say more. I remember Procol Harum doing a fine set with songs like Shine on Brightly, A Salty Dog, a cool version of Great Balls of Fire, and Robin Trower really going off on Whiskey Train. Some fans were disappointed the band didn't play A Whiter Shade of Pale. Canned Heat was tight as usual, and lead singer, Bob the Bear Height, dedicated the performance to lost bandmate Alan Wilson. The night felt really long. I would at times leave my seat to check out the crowd and view the show from different vantage points. Sam would go to the backstage area to see if Jimmy arrived. 10 Years After went on after 10 p.m. This was about the time things started to shift. There were fireworks going off in the crowd, ladyfingers and Roman candles. The band opened with Love Like a Man, followed by Good Morning Little Schoolgirl. I don't understand why some people were booing during the 8-song performance, which ended with the all-time 10 Years After favorite, I'm Going Home. While 10 Years After were playing, Sam took me to the backstage area. There were quite a few people around this one door that had a few steps before it. Sam said, "Wait here," and went in. Before I knew it, the door opened. Jimmy walked by. It happened so fast. I said, "Jimmy," and reached out my hand. I can remember my hand disappearing in his. Jimi had long fingers, big hands. He smiled and said, "Hello?" The door then closed. Wow, it was surreal, like a floating dream. I waited for Sam and then back to our seats for the show. I still couldn't believe I shook Jimi Hendrix's hand. Sam told me Jimi looked a little tired and was getting ready to do an interview with AFN, the US Military Broadcast Service, Armed Forces Network, BFBS. The British Forces Broadcasting Service was also there. That is a great interview and is available online and other sources. Some of the topics Jimi talks about are the Monterey Pop Festival, Woodstock, how nice it is to be back in Germany, future plans, and how he didn't know that Mungo Jerry was a group. He thought they got together to make that one record in the summertime, but wished anybody the best of luck who wants to get it together. It was close to midnight, and the crowd was getting noisy and restless. All of a sudden the lights dimmed, and there was Mitch Mitchell, Billy Cox, and Jimi starting off the show with Straight Ahead. Out of the 13 songs the band played, I enjoyed the mix of the new and past favorites. Machine Gun and Easy Rider blew me away, and Red House had me looking for my house key to unlock the door at home. The band finished the show with Lover Man. During Purple Haze, I was able to snap a photo with my Nikon 16mm spy camera that I snuck into the concert. There was a big difference in the performance of this show, compared to January of 1969. Jimi mostly stood in one place and played. Nothing flashy, no humping, grinding, playing with his teeth, behind his back, or destruction of guitar and amps. This was Jimi Hendrix of September 1970, with new ideas, emotions, direction, always thinking about tomorrow. It was cool with me however he wanted to present himself on or off stage. Too bad a large portion of the audience didn't feel that way. There were fights, fireworks, lots of whistles, which means booing at a German concert. I remember hearing the crowd yelling, "Watchtower! Watchtower!" It is well noted that Robin Trower was pissed at the crowd during Jimi's performance and made sure to tell Jimi backstage he was great and really enjoyed the show. I don't want to forget to mention how wonderful Mitch and Billy were. Just out of sight, Mitch was his superb self, and as Jimi always said, Billy was soulful and solid. Leaving the Deutschlandhalle outside near the entrance, the craziest thing unfolded. I bumped into Henry Vestine, the guitarist for Canned Heat. I told him I really enjoyed their set and expressed condolences for Alan Wilson. He asked if I could help him score some smoke for the band, and not the tobacco kind. I told him to walk with me. It wasn't too long before we heard shit. Trips, which meant hashish and acid. Henry walked away with black Afghan and red Lebanese hash. He was smiling and said thanks. While on the Procol Harum website, Robin Trower was quoted as saying, "I think it was above the audience's heads, you know. I mean, I couldn't take in a lot of what he was doing, and I'm a musician, a guitarist, so you can imagine what it was like for them. So anyway, then I was walking up and down outside the dressing room after he'd come off, and I was sort of saying, should I go in? Then I burst into the dressing room all of a sudden and said, I've got to tell you, it was the best thing I've ever seen." Which it was, and he said, thank you, but nah. And I just went, whoops, that's it, and walked out again. While Gary Brooker of Procol Harum stated in respect to Trower, he was very strongly influenced by the death of Jimi Hendrix in September 1970. We played on the same bill with Jimi in Germany, 2 weeks before he died in London. I remember standing on the side of the stage with Robin. There were 6,000 Germans in the audience, and they were booing Jimi Hendrix. He was playing fantastically well, but he wasn't including things like Hey Joe and Purple Haze. He wasn't setting light to his guitar. He just played magnificently, and this audience booed him. It was unbelievable, and Trower went bloody wild. He was livid. He was totally enthralled with Hendrix's playing, as we all were, and Trower was ready to punch out 6,000 Germans. I think Robin changed that day, and 2 weeks later, when Jimi died, it really affected him. Song for a Dreamer is about Hendrix. He was a complete master, and yet at this stage in his career, nobody appreciated him. Saturday, the 5th of September. Jimi travels by train from Berlin to Hamburg, then by shuttle bus followed by train to Puttgarden on the island of Fehmarn. Otto Barnash was the driver of the black Mercedes limousine, responsible for dropping Jimi from the hotel to the concert venue. Otto recalled, "I drove Jimi from the Dania Hotel to the festival twice, once on Saturday evening and once on Sunday morning for the concert. I was called to the hotel since I have a cab business on Fehmarn. Pure coincidence that I ended up driving Hendrix. I met him in the hotel courtyard. He was a very funny and pleasant guy. He climbed a mast, he seemed very flexible, and he quickly reached the top of the flag. I really liked that, and as he came down I asked him for an autograph for my kids. He asked me how many children I had. I told him 2, so he gave me 2 autographs, and on one of them he had also drawn a sun, the moon and stars. Hendrix was due to take the stage at 8 p.m, but when Jerry Stickles got there, he learned that a Force 5 storm and torrential rain was approaching and convinced Jimmy that it would be a big mistake to play. As a result, Jimmy bunkered down at the Dania Hotel in Puttgarden, in the north of the island. Sunday the 6th of September, Fehmarn Love and Peace Festival, Mecklenburg Bay, Isle of Fehmarn. With Hendrix's last show at the Love and Peace Festival on the storm-lashed Isle of Fehmarn off the northeast German coast delayed for 24 hours, the atmosphere grows turbulent thanks to gate crashes and violent Hells Angels bikers. The group arrived at 11 a.m. but don't take to the stage until 1 p.m. to be greeted with booze. Jimmy takes it in his stride, first being gracious. "Peace anyway, peace," are his first words, then comical. Joining in the booing before facing the crowd, Jimmy approached the microphone, arms spread, exclaiming, "I don't give a fuck if you boo," he shrugs, "as long as you boo in tune, you mothers." He begins to calm things down by introducing the group and adding, "We'd like to play some music for you, and we hope you can dig it. Because we're sorry we couldn't come on last night, but it's just unbearable, man. We couldn't make it together like that, you know." As the band played Red House, the weather changed. Umbrellas opened and people huddled under tarpaulins. Jimmy laughed and improvised lyrics. "Yeah, well, I've got a bad feeling about it," he sang before laughing. "Yeah, time's telling us something." The last 2 songs Hendrix played live were Purple Haze and a version of Voodoo Child, Slight Return. Ironically, or perhaps coincidentally, the last lines of the song, and the last Hendrix would ever sing in public, were, "If I don't see you in this world anymore, I'll find you in the next one, and don't be late. Don't be late." "Thank you, bye, and peace," shouted Jimmy at the end of his 90-minute concert. He is then escorted down the wooden steps to the back of the stage by David Butcher. Jimmy leaves Fehmarn by helicopter, which takes him to Hamburg, then on to London. All the while the Hells Angels rob the box office and burn down the stage. Concert set list: Killing Floor, Spanish Castle Magic, All Along the Watchtower, Hey Joe, Hey Baby, Message to Love, Foxy Lady, Red House, Easy Rider, Freedom, Room Full of Mirrors, Purple Haze and Voodoo Child, Slight Return. That concludes this installment of the series. Stay tuned for the next episode, where we will document the last days leading up to Jimmy's untimely death and explore the various facts and theories surrounding this event. Don't forget to subscribe for future content updates. And by the way, if you have any photos, stories, or anecdotes to contribute, we would love to hear from you. Until next time,